Yeehaw. It has been officially announced that The Crew 2 will be released on June 29th of this year. And we already know for sure that there's betas out there that if you get lucky you can get into. That's where it said on the main game itself, and then the other platforms as well. It said you can sign up and then you might get entered into it. But, well, what's not known is some stuff that, well, I'll leave the link in the description, but supposedly is true, and supposedly this is a reliable source that has been known around GT Planet. I think because I'm not in any of the closed betas, I'm also allowed to say this. Because it's not true, it's not known for a fact, but it's kinda, you can assume it, I think, and have a pretty safe assumption of it. To begin with, what I'll show in the background is a clip from the Crew 1 of the current, depending on when this video comes out, it's the Luck of the Iris Summit event. And this is a time trial with the Camaro dirt car. And I'll eventually put in more of my 2 cents about it, including stuff about this clip in general. But anyway, the stuff that is supposedly true, and it's pretty cotton picking cool too. One, we're supposedly gonna get a livery editor in the Crew 2. I didn't see details if it's for like the planes and the boats as well, but from how it's worded on GT Planet, I ain't looking directly at it because I'm using my phone right now to record this, so I can't do both at once. But to sum it up, it pretty much said, think of a feature that we know good in Forza and Need for Speed, but don't expect more than Forza and Need for Speed. Pretty much, I think what that's saying is Forza and Need for Speed both have a livery editor, but they don't have more in terms of what GT Sport has, the decal downloader. I don't think this will have that, but it does look like it will have a livery editor. So that's pretty cool. I mean, a lot of games have that nowadays. It's not a new thing, but it's still a cool thing to have. Livery editor is nice. And also another nice thing that might let you test out the livery editor and such is supposedly the Crew 2 will have an open beta as well of all the closed betas that you could sign up for and all that. The details about how you sign up for those have been out for a while, but I guess open beta means you shouldn't have to sign up. You can just download it off PSN or something like that and use it, or whatever platform you're on. Again, I assume if you're watching this video, you're probably on PlayStation, but as far as I know, that's for any and every platform, I assume. I think the closed beta is extremely limited. I'm not even 100% sure what platforms it is, but I assume if it's an open beta, it would be for all platforms, just because that would make the most sense. Then they can test out how it runs on all of the platforms. So anyway, the final new thing that's been supposedly true, but not 100% completely known for fact yet, is the map is a bit bigger as well. It's about 10 to 20% bigger, and then a whole heap of stuff has been redone for the better. The cities have been redone, the mountain areas have been redone, the river areas have been redone, so that makes it all that much more better in terms of how things look, and it's a little bit bigger all around. So that's pretty much the main new stuff that hasn't been like officially announced. I mean, obviously there's a whole heck of a heap of cool stuff here to know about too, like that you can have planes and boats as well as the cars. Another thing as well, and this is putting in more my opinion than what's actually been said on GT Planet, is I assume if they've redone a whole heck of a heap of stuff to make it flow better and make it look better, I have a hunch there's going to be some cool stuff to look for along the way too. It's a good thing to do if there's an open beta, and especially with the main game as well, meaning stuff like this. This is why I'm showing this in the background, because the Crew, at least of all the games that I've played, has been the best overall of it benefits you for exploring. Not just like how Burnout and Need for Speed have the shortcuts that are obvious shortcuts because they're literal alleyways that are like pretty obvious, really. They may be a bit harder to get to because they're narrower, but they're obviously there. And they're pretty straightforward. You just go on it and then go in that direction. The Crew has its own style of doing things that isn't even really an alleyway. It's pretty much this. It's you experiment, and then you find stuff, and then you do it. And it's pretty obvious they wanted you to do it once you find it, but you do actually have to find it. Instead of it just kind of being there and then you follow it immediately. Like this. I'll go back to the beginning of this clip. Or pretty much the beginning of this clip. Because this is an off-road time trial. It takes place on dirt. But, well, with the Dirt Series cars, they don't actually necessarily go off dirt. They do go off road, but not off dirt. So, they're not any better than any other things in something that ain't dirt. But, it seems like they're still sort of kind of telling you to cut the track a bit too. Because just look at how the trees are lined up. If you get it lined up a certain way, it's pretty much perfect. There's a hidden line in there that you can take perfectly. Like, look at how little that line is. That lines up pretty much perfectly with that Camaro. Look at how little room there is, but yet you just barely make it. You may scrape a few trees along the way. That's why I ain't first in the world. I'm like 20th. But if it's already this good now, I guarantee later on will be pretty cotton picking awesome. And another thing that's just more my opinion and nothing's been officially announced yet, and it's more of a negative though, is, well, it's all fine and dandy that developers put in tons of work to find little Easter eggs and stuff, like I've done in previous videos, how there was that you can get under the map and go what looks like underwater to get that little bit of gray area that you don't unlock immediately from the game start unless you get all of like the perks and all that. And then there's this I just described. This is, again, it could be considered a good thing, but I think this is really negative. From what it's looking like, the Crew 2 is going to be online only. And this is just my opinion on this. That's almost a game breaker for how much cool stuff this has. Like, the find your own route literally means your own route, and it's not just the predetermined shortcuts that are there. And then there's just also cool stuff if it's a giant map with a lot of different variations of vehicles. Online only is just, that's almost a game breaker. Again, I don't think it's actually official yet whether it is online only, but from what it's looking like it is. I'll link stuff in the description. Y'all can make your own opinions on that, but Livery Editor, cool, not revolutionary. Having a bigger map, I mean, that's kind of revolutionary. As far as I know, the Crew 1 is still the biggest map of a game that you can get. Correct me if I'm wrong, I think that might actually be right. The Crew 1 just straight up, I think, has the biggest map, and then the Crew 2 would be that much bigger, so yay, there we go. But, again, even though it's bigger, it's not necessarily better. That's their own opinion. And then the online only is, well, that's revolutionary in a sense of a negative. That's revolutionized games to the point of it's online transaction based. But, again, from what I've read on the GT Planet article, supposedly it's not a pay to win. Supposedly it gives all right amount of money. Y'all can, again, make your own assumptions on how well the Crew 1 does money. My opinion, it's about average. It's not the best game for giving out money. It's not the worst game for giving out money. It's tolerable. It's not nearly as bad as Need for Speed Payback or something like that. But again, this also ain't EA. This is Ubisoft, who does a whole heck of a heap of different styles of games like EA. But I think has a general better overall standing with its fan base. And probably at this point has the bigger fan base, because I think a lot of EA fans have moved on. So, for the negatives of online only, that's sort of a negative that Ubisoft has picked up from EA, but in terms of pretty much everything else, Ubisoft still has a whole heck of a heap of better things going for it than like EA or really even all the rest of them. Sure, Burnout Paradise Remastered has cool crashes, but it's just the same old stuff. Sure, Need for Speed Payback has, I literally don't know anything good that it has that other games don't have, but I'm sure it has something. But it's also online. The Crew 2, it's looking like it's going to be online only, but hey. It's going to have a livery editor. Still, there's games out there that don't. It's going to have an incredibly giant map. There's other games out there with big maps, but from what it's looking like, this would still be the biggest. And the developers actually seem to be caring about the fans. Meaning they're throwing stuff for the fans to find, and they're throwing stuff that makes the gameplay pretty much infinite because you can always find new routes, different events, and all that because the map is so big. It's pretty much infinite gameplay in a sense of, even though there's a set map limit, like you can't go in water and all that unless you glitch into the water, wink wink, that's a thing that you can do. There's still set boundaries even beyond that. You can't go too far out into the ocean. No one will ever play to the point of they find everything. I almost feel like a lot of other games out there are sort of limiting you in that aspect. Everybody can make their own argument of what they consider infinite gameplay, but at least in my opinion, the Crew 1 is about the best out there for infinite gameplay. And it's looking like the Crew 2 is going to be that much better. If the game is online only, and especially if the Crew 1 has already been announced by the time the Crew 2 comes out that the servers are ending, and then when the servers end, you can't play the game at all. I may not get it, but I would hope, for Jiminy Cricket's sakes, they find a way to make the game offline playable when the servers do end. I assume they will, but if they don't, then I may not get the Crew 2, but other than that, I'm probably going to get this game. It's looking like it's probably going to be the best open world game, at least in my opinion, for racing that we've had in a long time, honestly. I don't have an Xbox, so I can't play the Forza games, so I ain't going to say on them, but given how cool the Crew 1 was with just having a giant map and cool things to find along the way, even miscellaneous small things that very few people will find in a giant map, it pretty much has everything going for it that you would want in an open world, and then the Crew 2 would be that much better with Livery Editor, an even bigger map, and then maybe there'll be an open beta too that we can test all that in. Maybe. Again, only could do in the description. But, I mean, so far GT Planet has been pretty picking accurate in other speculation but almost truth videos I've done, like the Burnout Paradise Remastered. That was predicted right thanks to GT Planet. GT Sport Closed Beta pretty much got every part of it analyzed from GT Planet. GT Planet seems to be a pretty picking reliable source. So I'm not guaranteeing anything. If none of this happens, I might even take the video down or something, but I have pretty good confidence that all this will be true. Again, I don't know what type of livery editor it is. I can only assume it will not include a decal uploader. I don't know how long the open beta will be. I don't know how much of the world will be included. From what I've heard from the closed beta, everything is sort of kind of there. But again, we don't even know what everything is yet because the game isn't finished yet. But that's worth waiting and seeing. We know what we know now. We know some of it ain't even official, but from what it's looking like, it's a lot better than what we already completely know about some games that have been released lately. Crew 2 is already looking better from barely of what we do know than a lot of games that are already out. So that, in my opinion, is definitely worth a haul.